Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'd appreciate if you take your seats, and I welcome you to the June 2nd Planning Board meeting. Today, we are going to be short 2 people temporarily, and hopefully one makes it in time, but we have a quorum, so we're okay. Before I turn it over to the city attorney, can I get someone to move to approve the minutes from the May meeting?
I'll move him.
Okay, can I get a second? Second, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, meeting is approved. Turn it over to the city attorney. Swear everybody in.
Thank you. Good morning. Today's meeting of the Planning Board is being conducted in a hybrid format with a quorum of the board physically present in the Commission chambers at Miami Beach City Hall, and applicants, staff, and members of the public appearing either in person or virtually via Zoom. Those wishing to participate via Zoom may dial the toll-free number, which is 877-853-5257, and enter the webinar ID, which is 861-4342-6327#, or log into the Zoom app and enter the webinar ID, which again is 861-4342-6327. Individuals wishing to speak on an item must click the raise hand icon if they are using the Zoom app, or dial *9 if participating by phone. Before I swear in those who are testifying, I'm going to read into the record the city's notice regarding lobbyist registration. If you are appearing on behalf of a business, a corporation, or another person, including as an architect, attorney, or representative of an applicant or an objector, you need to register as a lobbyist with the city clerk's office before you speak to the board. If you haven't registered yet, you should register prior to appearing. You do not have to register if you are speaking only on behalf of yourself, you are testifying as an expert witness, providing only scientific, technical, or other specialized testimony, or you are appearing as a representative of a neighborhood association without compensation for your appearance to express support for or opposition to an item. Expert witnesses and representatives of neighborhood associations shall, prior to appearing, disclose in writing to the city clerk their name, address, and the principal on whose behalf they are communicating. These rules apply whether you are appearing in favor of or against an item or encouraging or arguing against its passage, defeat, modification, or continuance. I will now swear in everyone who is physically present in the commission chambers and intends to testify. Virtual speakers will need to be sworn in one by one before addressing the board. So if you'll be testifying, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will be giving is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Before we start, we're going to welcome the esteemed Thomas. Say a few words. Thomas Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everybody. As a lot of you may be aware, starting at the July meeting, there'll be a new name on the planning board memos because Debbie Tackett has been confirmed by the commission to succeed me as the director. And that will be effective on June 29th. And I'll be with the city for the month of July, but strictly on an advisory capacity, assisting Debbie in anything additional that she needs for the transition. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes to thank everybody here for your support. I mentioned to Brian before the meeting that I went into the DROP program, which is the Deferred Retirement Option Program, 5 years ago. And the main reason that I went into it was to ensure that there would be upward mobility in our department. And so I think Debbie's going to do an outstanding job. We have a very deep bench. We have an excellent staff. And I think that the manager appointing from within shows his confidence in our staff. And there will be an opportunity now for everybody to move up, and this will ensure continuity. My predecessors also were promoted from within, and so I think this is a really good thing for the department. Also, I've been here for 33 years, and so at some point, you definitely want to make room for people to move up. But I also wanted to say that I think you guys do an outstanding job. I know it's not easy, but as the local planning agency, you do play a very, very pivotal role in terms of making recommendations to the commission as well as approving certain types of projects. And so I would encourage you to keep up the good work. And that's it. I will be around, so most of you have my number. Feel free to reach out. I won't be a stranger.
Well, congrats on a stellar career. We were lucky to have you. You've been a pleasure to work with. I'm glad you'll still be around. And Debbie, congrats to you. Well deserved.
Thank you, and thank you, Tom, for all of the support. I've worked with Tom for over 20 years, and, you know, I would not be as knowledgeable or in the position I'm in now without his incredible mentorship and teaching. So thank you, Tom, for everything.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks
folks.
for-
Have a good meeting.
Thank you, Tom. Very appreciated. Okay, request for continuances. The first is Planning Board File 260838, which is the One Ocean Drive concession agreement.
So the concession agreement, the request is to continue to the July 7th meeting. Staff has been working with the city attorney's office, and we have no objection to that request.
Okay, someone want to move it to July?
I'll move it.
Okay, Keith, Melissa second, all in favor?
Yep.
Anyone opposed? No, okay, 5-0. Okay, the next is Planning Board File 260827, North Beach Residential Incentives LDR Amendment. And I guess companion with Planning Board File 260828, North Beach Residential Incentives Comprehensive Plan Amendment.
Both of these have been requested by the sponsor to be continued to the July 7th meeting. We currently have a public meeting, the required public meeting in between the two planning board hearings scheduled for June 18th. So that's a Thursday at 5:30 p.m. You can find all of the information, how to log into the meeting via Zoom on the city's website. But the public meeting has been rescheduled to June 18th at 5:30 p.m. And again, that's on a Zoom. So anyone listening can find the login information and join that meeting.
Okay, I should have asked for anybody here to speak on this motion to continue. Anyone on Zoom? Okay, someone want to move both of them?
I'll move it,
Okay, and it's the June, you said, the July meeting?
July.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so move to July. Okay, progress reports. We have one, Planning Board File 210448, 235 23rd Street.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an existing nightclub. It initially received a conditional use permit for a neighborhood impact establishment with entertainment in 2006. Since that time, there have been multiple operators for this particular location. The most recent and current operator took the space in 2025. The last progress report heard by the planning board was in June of 2025. At that point in time, the board did not take any action. They had cured all of the violations at that time, and it wasn't until recently where the property did receive several violations. There were, in October of 2025, there was a special event that they received 2 violations for. Well, they received 1 violation for the special event itself, but also a written noise warning.
15.
The vast majority of the new violations were issued in May of this year, and they are specifically related to the valet. The current CUP does require the applicant to maintain valet service and provide the storage locations to the city as part of that CUP. What happened was their current valet, it is my understanding that the BTR for their current valet was revoked, and therefore it's not only a violation for the valet company to be operating without a BTR, but also a violation of the CUP. So we have, I believe, 24 violations that were issued beginning early May on a nearly daily basis for that one specific issue.
All 24 are related to the ballet service.
Correct.
Right, but they would get one and know it was wrong and keep doing it? Is that what I
Correct.
understand? Okay.
And we do have, I just wanted to note, we do have our Assistant Director, Edgar Estrada of the Co-Compliance Department here, who could also, if you have specific questions about, how code is issuing these violations, he would be more than happy to answer any questions you have as well. We've also included itemized calls for service from the police department, and there was a pyrotechnics violation issued by the fire department.
A what? A what?
Pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
Explosive threat.
And that appears, all of those do not appear to be recurring. The recurring violations are specific to the valet. All of the other violations have not been recurring.
What about the one in April for an explosive threat? And what about the one in April for lewd conduct and overdose and disturbance and larceny?
And battery.
So some of these, if you look, some of these may not be related to the nightclub itself, because if you look at the times, the lewd conduct, for example, was 8:30 in the morning. May or may not be directly related to the nightclub operations. The nightclub is not open at that time. But certainly, there have been calls, there was the explosive threat is someone using a telephone to call in an explosive threat for the property. We don't know if it's specifically related to the operations happening at the nightclub. With the homeless as well. There may be some cause and effect, but we don't have that determination.
Explosive threat was at 12:39 a.m. in April, and then there was also a code violation for alcohol disclosure for a promoted event. There's another explosive event at 1:12 a.m. on May 14th. So these are operating hours, are they not? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Deborah, you finished?
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll ask questions.
Yes, of course. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Mickey Marrero, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, here on behalf of the Baccarat Nightclub. So obviously a lot of stuff to explain here, and I will explain it because I think you'll find after you hear some of the background that unlike some of the situations we've had with other establishments, there's little here. There's not nothing to blame. There are issues that we've worked through, but a lot of the stuff on paper appears different than what's actually happening. So I'll go back chronologically to, back up what some of Debbie has said and explain a little further. There was an event that triggered if you look at the cure letter, there were 3 items identified in the cure letter. 2 of them were related to one instance. There was a noise warning, not even a violation, a warning, and a violation for using the outdoor patio, which is not allowed in their CUP. That event was not, so the club did a mitzvah. They allowed the Women's Breast Cancer Charity to use, it wasn't even a night that they're open, they allowed them to use it as for a charity event. And they've since done other charity events, and they've told the operators not to use the patio. It was just an oversight. They've never used the patio in contradiction with their CUP. It was the charity, it was an event that they donated food, they donated the whole venue, and that's when it occurred. So the patio, they know not to use it. They have never used it when it's their operation. It was a charity. They made a mistake. They should have informed the charity, but that's 2 of the 3. The third one, as Ms. Latone pointed out, was for notice, and what the code now requires you to, as you all know, provide 96-hour notice of any celebrity, any act that's going to be at the venue. They do this whenever they're open. They have some person, be it performer, does a couple songs. This is kind of what most of these clubs do now. So and I'm copied on them, so I see them. They notify the police timely 2 or 3 times a week. They've never had an issue. Of the 200 plus times they've done this, one of them, and it did occur, and it's something that they made a mistake and they paid it. We didn't appeal it because it was wrong. They got it. They didn't make the 96 hours. They just missed it. Somebody that sends these emails from their office was a little bit late. But that's one time out of like 200 times. So again, they made a mistake. We didn't even appeal it because I told them, guys, you didn't make it within 96 hours. It's your mistake. They immediately paid the $1,000, and they haven't done it since. So those are the 3 that were the subject of the cure letter. Then what's happened in May is a little bit, with these nightclubs, and I've been here before you guys, always some weird stuff happens. But so in May, we find out, and I get a call that they got a violation. One night they were open, so the code showed up and gave them a violation for violation of their CUP. They didn't even understand why. And they gave them, so every time that they're open, they get 2 violations. We have appealed every one of them, and I'll explain to you why. So these hearings are going to be later this summer at some point. The reason we appealed them was because it's had nothing to do with anything they're doing. The third-party valet operator, which they have a long-term contract with, getting these valet licenses with these venues is very complicated. They have a contract. The valet operator is functioning fine. They have an issue with their BTR, not the club's BTR, not anything that has to do with the club. We've been in touch with the valet company. This is like 2 weeks ago, they've hired an expediter. They're dealing with the city. They're not entirely sure why their BTR got impacted. They're trying to work it out. They have other counsel. They have another staff, but they're resolving it. They also have told me that they work for like 60, 70 other establishments, restaurants, venues. Not one of their other ones has a violation. So I think it's called Beachfront Valet. They get a violation within minutes, and I kid you not, it's not like days later. Within minutes, Baccarat gets a violation for this third-party valet company, and then we contact them, and they're like scrambling to figure out why. And again, none of their other clients that use the same company has gotten a violation. It's very weird. So we've contacted the city, but again, I don't represent the valet company. They have their own folks. They're trying to solve it. But it's been pretty challenging to deal with. Now, again, for this club just to close because there's a technical issue with the valet company, which the valet company doesn't even understand, they would go out of business. I mean, they've paid money for folks. They would literally go out of business within 2 weeks if they just had to shut down. So we've appealed them. They've all been validly and timely appealed. And the valet company is feverishly trying to solve whatever technicality with their BTR, which they, as of last week when I spoke to them, do not fully understand. So there's all these violations now as to the police calls. So look, there was some larceny, something happened at 8:30 a.m. They closed at 3. So that's 5.5 hours. I don't think anything at 8:30 a.m. had anything to do with them. The explosive threats probably, and again, I'm hearing about some of this new, but if somebody's calling an explosive threat to a venue right at its peak opening time, it's probably a competitor. These businesses are, unfortunately. So I don't think they would call an explosive threat on their own club.
You have overdoses. You have 1, 2, 3, 4,
You have
5,
battery.
6.
I don't believe there's an overdose.
Would you like to address this live streamer Clavicle who says that he's the owner? He's 20 years old, and there's video of him, because he's live streaming, inside a establishment that should be 21 and only, and he's carding teenagers. You like to talk about that?
I've never met this individual. He's not the person I deal with.
Are you aware of this, or are you,
I know
have
that
they
the
kept all
existence-
this secret, even though it's on social media?
Look, I can't speak to what social media and reality sometimes is very different. I will tell you.
Well, no, but he's there,
Yeah.
and then we see fights, both inside and out.
So as to, I will
Live
tell you,
streaming.
I don't believe, and again.
You think
I-
it's fake?
No, I don't think it's fake. I'm going to respond because, so if someone has some partnership or is working at the club, I will tell you, my son is 19. He's a DJ. He's at clubs DJing. Does he drink? He's never had a drop of, I'm not going to pretend he's never drank in his life. He's in college, but he's never had a drop of alcohol in any of the clubs he's worked at because he's a DJ. If this guy's working or someone has a partnership with the club, but he's not drinking, you can't be a patron, but I can tell you, you could work security, you could work at a venue if you're a valid employee. I don't know the deals of this individual. I only know his name because of my, younger kids.
Your kids.
But, because they follow these guys. But again, I'll speak to them about that. I know that there was one incident, outside that security handled very quickly, but there really hasn't been that many issues in the club. And on paper, it places all these technical violations that it appears to me that, again, whenever all this stuff happens, there's someone's trying to impact their business. It's happened with other venues that we're aware of. But in any event.
But we don't know that. We don't know that. I would like to talk to the police department and find out from them. I think hearing from the police.
No.
I mean, if it's possible. I mean,
Well, let me ask, is anybody else in here to speak on this item? No. Is anyone on Zoom on this item? I just want to get to the public hearing. Okay, so we're going to close that.
Can we
so
do,
go ahead.
before we close the public hearing, can we
Yeah.
do disclosures just as a,
And what?
On a
Oh,
progress
not on
report?
this.
Do we need that on progress report?
Because the progress report could turn into a modification revocation hearing, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Any disclosures?
No.
No.
And Mr. Chair, we do have someone on Zoom that just raised their hand.
Okay.
A Brewster Knott.
Brewster, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Do you have 2 minutes?
All right. I'm the property manager for the residential and dormitory apartment building across the street from this establishment. And I have a resident here with me as well, witnessing my testimony. But my concerns were reported to lots of city officials, as well as some other residential emails going back and forth. My biggest overall concern here is maintaining peace and order in a brand new apartment community that we've been open a year now. We're 100% workforce housing. We're very successful. We've got a very successful running dormitory with, in most cases, minors living on the second floor that have full view into what is going on the streets and the sidewalks and inside of that active courtyard each night that club is open. There is always activity in that courtyard. After the club is nearing close, and during the startup, everyone arriving at this club is not arriving with a valet service. They're arriving in Ubers. They're crowding into the streets. They crowd into the streets after the club closes. They get on the Animars property, and several of them have been sneaking back behind my building and continuing to party. Those are my concerns, especially with the Miami City Ballet School having so much sight line to that establishment and what's going on, as well as my residents.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Questions, anybody?
The only question I have is, if we are going to take staff recommendation to hold a hearing, can we have it in July instead of September?
July is going to be extremely challenging because this does require a 31-day notice, which includes a mail notice. That is entirely the responsibility of staff to do that.
But can it be done, is what he's asking.
Yeah, can it be done?
There might be
or can
some-
we make it
And I don't,
conditional?
honestly, physically, potentially, yes, but we would have to send the mail notice out within the next day or two, and we don't even have the list of the property owners yet. We would have to, typically, the applicant would be submitting that. In the case of a revocation hearing, we would have to compile that.
Yeah, I wouldn't
So,
ask, except we're not
I
here
would
in
not want
August.
to try and notice it and miss the deadline by a day or two and then have to renotice it again. So I would feel more comfortable with bringing this back for a revocation hearing in September. But we could certainly attempt to bring it back in July. We just may be in front of you in July requesting a different date if the notices aren't completed in.
So if people agree on the rest, we could have a motion to attempt to do this. The worst case is it's has to happen for September, right? We could try, best effort.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make that motion.
I would second that, and I'd also like to have the police department present, because I'd have serious questions about a lot of these things, because they are during operating hours, and they all are within the last, not even 30 days.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to ask staff to do it for July. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So those are your marching orders.
Very good.
All right,
Thank you all.
thank you. Okay, we're on to comprehensive plan and code amendments. First is planning board file PB 260815, 1775 Collins Avenue, LDR amendment with a companion comprehensive plan amendment, planning board file 260816.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the Raleigh Hotel. Before I get into the specifics of our recommendation, I just wanted to point out that this is, the LDR amendment does include a increase in the floor area ratio that's currently permitted for this property. As such, the process for this request is extended. It is actually a 6-step process. This is step number 1, which is the initial hearing before the planning board. After today, if the board continues this application to a future date, the planning department will coordinate with the applicant the scheduling of a community meeting. That community meeting will be noticed and held prior to the second planning board hearing. After the planning board transmits a recommendation, it also requires 2 readings at the city commission and final approval by a 6/7 vote. And we would also have an intervening public meeting during that commission process. So I just wanted to point that out. The applicant is currently requesting an FAR of 2.5. Specific to oceanfront lots within the architectural district that exceed 100,000 square feet as of January 1st of this year. Staff would note that while they have crafted the ordinance to include not just this specific property. Currently, it appears, after looking at the entire architectural district, that this is the only particular property that would be able to take advantage of the increase in FAR. It would result in, the existing FAR is 2.0, so an increase of 0.5 FAR for this particular property would result in an additional 66,418 square feet. The applicant has submitted plans that is part of the development project for the Raleigh Hotel and the neighboring South Seas and Richmond properties. This has been combined into a unified development site. We would also note that currently in the architectural district, there are different FARs. There is an increase in FAR of up to 3.0 for properties that exceed the 100,000 square feet that were aggregated prior to 1998. So this is, for example, the Ritz-Carlton property. There are several properties within this district that do have a higher FAR. The Lowe's Hotel is another one. But this particular property, because it was aggregated after 1998, is required to stay with the existing 2.0. So again, they're asking for 2.5. Given the size of this property, given the importance of the historic contributing buildings on the site, and their restoration staff is generally supportive of the proposal. But we would recommend that this be continued to the July meeting, so that we can schedule the public hearing and hear more from the surrounding neighbors.
All right, thanks. And before you start, Alfredo, I just want to point out, I inadvertently passed over a matter regarding the Base Camp 305 school. So if anyone is here for that, it'll be next. Go ahead, Alfredo.
Good morning, Chairman and Board. My name is Alfredo Gonzalez with Office at 333 Southeast 2nd Avenue at Greenberg Troy. Here today on behalf of the applicant, Nala Raleigh LLC. With me today is David Butter from my office, one of my colleagues. From ownership, Nala Capital, Genghis Hadid, and architect Kobe Karp. Nala Capital acquired the Raleigh project and its 5th owner in the last 14 years at the end of 2025. I would like at this time to have Genghis Hadid just come in and talk to you about his company and the projects he's worked on. So as an introduction of the developer who's acquired the site.
Thanks. Thank you, Alfredo. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. My name is Genghis Hadid, and I am the managing principal of Nala Capital and co-founder as well. Nala Capital is a privately held, privately owned real estate and development company based out of New York, focused on creating exceptional properties that stand the test of time. We invest with a long-term ownership mindset, emphasizing quality, stewardship, lasting value for the communities in which we build. Our projects include developments in historically significant markets and landmark districts, including in New York and Beverly Hills, as well as in the Gold Coast of Chicago. Our projects include ground-up development and the repositioning of existing buildings in all of our markets. Today, I'm here to discuss our project that is far more than a development opportunity for us. The Raleigh is one of Miami Beach's most iconic landmarks and one of the defining properties in the history of this city. When we acquired the Raleigh, we understood that we were taking on both an opportunity and a significant responsibility. You want me to wait? We inherited a property that had been closed for years and requires today substantial investment, restoration, and structural rehabilitation before it can once again become an active contributor to Miami Beach. Since closing, we have moved forward aggressively with our commitment to reinvest into this property. We have completed the enclosure of the Raleigh and through the installation of scaffolding and other protective systems. We have completed the structural shoring of the entire hotel. We've completed the new dune crossover connecting the beach walk to the beach. We've completed the demolition of the non-historic penthouse additions that were done after the original construction. We've commenced facade restoration and stucco remediation. We have commenced strengthening of the existing structural columns, and we have commenced a significant concrete restoration work throughout the historic structure. We obviously invite everybody from the planning board to come and visit to see the amount of work that is actively taking place today. These are not future commitments. These are investments that we've already made in the sums of millions of dollars. They reflect our belief in the Raleigh, our confidence in Miami Beach, and our commitment to bringing this landmark back to life. We do not view our request as additional development capacity simply for the sake of development capacity. We view it as a critical component that allows the comprehensive restoration and long-term viability of the Raleigh Hotel and the campus. Historic restoration at this scale, as all of you are well aware, is extraordinarily complex. It's extraordinarily expensive. And the reality is that preservation, rehabilitation, and activation of an iconic property such as the Raleigh require a thoughtful balance between preservation goals and economic sustainability. Our requested modifications allow us to create that exact balance. It provides the flexibility to complete the restoration, deliver a world-class hospitality destination, create lasting economic activity, and ensure that the Raleigh remains a vibrant and thriving part of Miami Beach for decades to come. Most importantly, this request allows us to continue moving forward with certainty and momentum as we have started. The Raleigh has sat dormant for way too long. Our goal is very simple: restore it, reopen it, reactivate it, and once again make it a source of pride for Miami Beach.
We respectfully ask for your recommendation and support for this proposal as we move forward to City Commission, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we get the PowerPoint up at this point? Thank you. So, my client actually gave a great overview of what he's been doing. He acquired the site as the 5th owner at the Raleigh over the last 14 years in end of October. So, as he said, he immediately started looking at the conditions of the building and saw that the Raleigh, and we had started meeting with city officials, with Debbie, planning, manager's office, commissioners. Everyone had echoed the same concern. Everyone was concerned about the condition of the Raleigh that's been give you a little history of it. The Raleigh for the last 14 years has been flipped from one owner to the next. Several entitlements. Back 9 years ago, when it was under the Tommy Hilfiger Group, they secured the building permit in 2017 that stripped down the Raleigh, and it's been that way ever since. So the concerns that were echoed by the administration and seen by my client, he immediately started working on how to get this shoring. So as of May 1st, actually, before hurricane season, 100% of the shoring, bracing, has been completed, foundation to support the building. In addition to the fact that he started taking other steps, actively working on the construction as he outlined. But one of the ones that I wanted to note was that, and I'll show you so you can see it. These are some of the projects like the Rosewood, Beverly Hills that they worked on, his projects. But if you look at the historic picture of the Raleigh, for decades, since 1996, the Raleigh had a penthouse addition added. Administration, I've had numerous talks, and Debbie, I know, has asked everyone who's owned this property to strip back that addition. Well, it was finally agreed to, and it's Nala Capital who actually finished doing it. If you drive by now, you'll see the historic crown back the way it was, stripped out the penthouse. So he started that work already and has done that work. So it's important that, and one more thing that he did on top of that, there were complaints, ongoing complaints on the property prior to his ownership. There was a dune crossing behind the Richmond, a wood crossing that crosses between, get you to the beach, public access. It's been in disrepair since a previous storm destroyed it, and Genghis immediately discovering that, we went through FDP and got the permits, and were required before turtle season. It would impact turtle season. Before May 1st, that was completed and opened back up to the public, so they had that use as well. So where are we here today? We're here today asking to start the process for a modification, an increase of FAR of 0.5. So it's a modest increase that's being requested, really to allow this project to stabilize and be able to finally be brought back onto the public and the use. Everyone's looked at this property for over 9 years as a construction site, and my client has been committed to and has already started working on this site. But I wanted to go over, and Debbie had mentioned this before, when you look at there's a unique characteristic when you're in the Miami Beach Architectural District, RM3, oceanfront lots typically have 3.0. But when you're in this area, which is about, you'll see in pink, you're limited to 2.0, except some of the large-scale projects that were grandfathered. So the Setai, over 6.0 FAR. The Ritz-Carlton and the Shore Club that are at actually 3.15, because there's a 3.0 as a right, and there's a 0.15 bonus for hotel amenities. So we're asking, we're actually the same size and larger than the Ritz and at over 135,000 square feet, to increase it not to 3.5 or 3.15. We're asking to get to 2.5 to make the project. And I'll walk you through some of the uses that 66,000 square feet of FAR would go through. These are some of the exhibits of the projects in the area. And this is kind of renderings of what the project would look like. These are the old renderings. We are, just for the record, we are in the midst of redesigning and strategizing how that FAR would actually be used. It's going to be a process that'll go to the Historic Preservation Board if the FAR is approved ultimately by the commission. So we haven't submitted any plans to, at this point, to HPB. We're still in development of the plans. But it would be roughly, this is the historic character you'll see that will be done. And if you look here, the interesting part is that both the Richmond and South Seas, as part of the permanent plans, is being restored to its original condition in the 1940s. The facade was covered up in just like the penthouse addition in the 90s that the Raleigh had its alterations. The South Seas and Richmond had their facades altered in the mid-50s. So that will be returned. There was also a fourth floor that's being removed. So you'll end up with 3 floors, and the original facade that, quite frankly, when we were going through the original process, a lot of people said, why are you changing it? No, we're not changing it. We're bringing it back to all 3 buildings are L. Murray Dixon buildings. So you have a collection of 3 buildings of an iconic architect. And in addition to that, what I wanted to show you is that with a 2.5 FAR, we're not asking for additional density. We're not asking for any zoning changes. Everything else is a matter of right. This project, before it even went under construction, under the last entitlements, had over 300 hotel rooms when you combine the Raleigh, Richmond, and South Seas. That's what was existing. Under the permitted density in the RM3, you could have well over 450 residential units. Don't worry, that's nowhere near what they're asking for. Right now, there's entitlements of 86 hotel rooms and 84 apartments. We're probably looking, if the FAR is increased to 2.5, of being somewhere in the range of 52 residential units. So substantially less density than the project could have. And quite frankly, at the end, I just wanted to highlight, we did go, because as a requirement of the FAR process, we do have to show where potentially the massing would go. So we did go, in your package, you'll see exhibits that we try to allocate preliminarily the massing into different areas, which includes the new tower, but also includes the Richmond South Seas that had been voided of FAR space. There were mechanical equipment in the Richmond above the first floor. The South Seas was double height space, so they took out all the FAR. We're reintroducing FAR, so you have an active Richmond South Seas. The ownership thought it was important to activate these historic buildings along Collins Avenue. You'll see also that the pavilion structure, which is currently open air, would be enclosed. So that allows for more usage and weather. And you'll see also a walkway that was just a trellis, open air trellis for people to walk from the historic structure to the residential tower. That's going to be enclosed as well. So those are the areas that we're looking to allocate the 66,000 square feet. We haven't finalized those plans, but those are where we're at. So we would highly recommend that the planning board continue this item per staff recommendation, so we can go on to our community meeting and come back to you all as well in July with a formal recommendation and continue the process. And here to answer any questions. If there's any public comments, I'm happy to, any rebuttals if needed.
So when you're looking at what the FAR increase is doing for height, we're only looking at those 2 extra floors on the
Right.
building?
Because the building currently right now sits at 175. Code allows it to be at 200.
There's
So-
no, right, so all the height is
Before we
closer on that.
engage, is anybody else in chambers to speak on this? Come on. And just introduce yourself and your address.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mitchell Cohen. I'm one of the owners and president of the Shelburne Hotel, 1801 Collins. What did Yogi Berra say? I have deja vu all over again. 5 years ago, as the new owner of the Shelburne Hotel, a previous applicant came forward and wanted to build a 200-foot tower, which we felt was not consistent with good planning, We didn't think it was consistent with saving Miami Beach's heritage stock. We felt it was completely out of place. But let me just go back a little bit. First of all, I've met the owner and the applicant for about 30 seconds, and I think that we can work a fair bit out. I know his counsel, I know his architect, but nonetheless, I'm here today to say that we need to get together and do some more work because the additional 2 floors is out of character. As a lot of us know here, the Heritage Planning Board worked very hard and very long at reducing the previous applicant's program down from 200 to approximately 175 feet. The present planning report does say there are difficulties with light, with air, and I personally, as a planner who has been licensed for going on 45 years, think that adding the 2 additional stories at this time is totally out of context and out of character with South Beach. I know it's a long and drawn-out process. I'm not against development. I'm pro-development. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of a North American-wide real estate company. We have projects all through the U.S. and Canada. We also have a portfolio of heritage buildings, Toronto, Ottawa, Dallas, Miami Beach. So I'm familiar with heritage. I'm familiar with the difficulty in getting heritage done. But I worked hand in hand with the city of Miami Beach, the Heritage Preservation Board, and Mr. Needleman, I know you were on the board at that time. Ms. Tackett, I know you were also on it at that time, and congratulations on your promotion. But I spent $100 million on a complete heritage renovation of the Shelburne Hotel. And I didn't come back. I didn't come back for a floor. I didn't come back for a square footage. I didn't come back for a variance. I worked well within the established guidelines. And I just don't think it's appropriate that 2 additional floors be added. I'm not against the FAR. I'm not against numbers. I'm not against math. But math is not always about context. So I am going to leave it with everyone here that right now we are against the additional FAR unless it's put in a place that doesn't impact the heritage stock of Miami Beach and doesn't have an impact on the Shelburne Hotel. At that point, thank you very much for the time. Have any questions?
Yeah, well, Mitchell, they may have questions, but thanks for your articulate commentary. And as you know, as you probably heard, we're going to continue this. And there's going to be a process, a public meeting. So obviously I encourage you to attend those and share your thoughts there as well.
I flew down here for this
Yeah.
because I want to set the table.
Yeah.
And again, I want to work with the applicant and obviously with staff and yourselves to make Miami Beach better. And I welcome all you to come tour the Shelburne Hotel. I mean, $100 million renovation, and it worked out perfectly. And Ms. Tackett, thank you very much for that.
And just so you know, we always encourage neighbor communication. So, hopefully it can all be worked out. But regardless, please participate and then come back to this hearing. And when will be July, you asked to move it to? July?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it, sir. I'll book my flight.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Cohen while we're up here? No? Okay, thank you. Anybody else in chambers to speak?
Thank you.
Anyone on
Thank you.
Zoom? Okay. Melissa, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you,
All
but
good.
good questions. Or anybody else have questions? All right.
I'll just say that he was right. I was on the HPB when this came in front of us, and I mean, it took a few meetings. And, I remember my concern was the height, and we didn't grant a little higher, but the top few floors were pushed back a little bit, stepped back. We spoke. I'm not against the FAR. You have a big site to put it on, but I too would be very leery of recommending additional floors, because it would just be kind of going against everything the HPB worked for 5-6 years ago. So I'm just letting you know that it's good to work out, talk to the neighbor. Maybe you can work something out. Again, it's a big site. There's room on there to add the additional square footage, but maybe not at the top of the building.
Thank you. And I know, and we talked, we bumped into each other at an event, and you expressed that. That's why we're in the midst of developing exactly how the FAR would be used. And we'll come back, we're meeting with the neighbors, both sides, and administration, and try to bring something back. So, and we have a very long, multiple hearing process, so.
All right. Any other-
I just have, first of all, thank you for bringing back Raleigh. It's been painful to see on driving by. But I'm just trying to get a little bit of history. The previous FAR was through Schvo or Hilfiger, or how did that, I just want to make sure I have my numbers right.
No, sure. Okay, so I could give you what happened is, this even predates, I think, Debbie, you weren't here. This was back in the 90s. And you might have been here. No. Sorry.
Comedian.
You gotta have fun. No, what happened in the 90s, there was a downzoning and changes, and they created the Miami Beach Architectural District. When they created the Miami Beach Architectural District on the National Register, they put a restriction that the RM3 properties that are oceanfront, that typically have over 45,000 square feet, are 3.0, they'd be limited to 2.0. And there were some exceptions, so that's how and this was, the SETI was done prior to that, so that was at the old FAR at 6++. And then the Ritz-Carlton site and the Shore Club site, which were over 100,000 square foot existing sites when this was done, were grandfathered at 3.0 plus the bonus of 0.15 for accessories. So that's how those sites ended up. The Raleigh site wasn't combined in the 90s. That's more recent than 2019, which is why. And then I know that there was a mention of the Lowe's. The Lowe's was the first convention center hotel in the 90s also. Actually, half of it sits on the RM3 oceanfront. The other half sits on the MXC. But those were the only properties that escaped the downzoning to 2.0.
So, and the FAR is being requested because?
The FAR is being requested, and good question. And I don't want to rehash what has been out in the media, but obviously this was a very difficult acquisition for the current owner. It wasn't your typical seller wants to sell and buyer buy. I'll leave it at that. But once the buyer the current owner acquired the site and started investigating the site and the actual conditions, in order to make the project work, it was actually much worse. Like, he called me immediately and said, there are pigeons in the Raleigh. There's, the building itself is having major issues. I just acquired this. I need to protect it. So in analyzing the performance of the project, it makes it very difficult to keep with the original approvals. That's basically why there's that 0.5 FAR request. It was the minimal to try to make the project viable and not turn this into a 6th, 7th, continue the saga that's been going on for 14 years.
But Alfredo, you're asking, what it looks like is you want 2 extra floors just to have 2 extra floors. But if you haven't decided where the FAR is going to be used, then I guess I feel like we're seeing a lot of these LDRs and comp plan amendments and things like that. And I don't know if it's to avoid seeking a variance or whatever. I feel like if there's, so the answer is just because they want it?
Well, the answer is to make the project viable. I mean, to be honest with you, there were a lot more additional pitfalls, including the condition of the existing structure that they weren't aware or able to. They were very limited due diligence in acquisition. So instead of having this project trying to figure out how to rework it or look at other options, sorry, my mother's calling. That's very important. But anyway, in order to make the project viable, the applicant went in to just see how he could salvage this project and not turn it into something
Then
else.
why isn't it applied to the original building as opposed to the new construction portion?
It's being applied, right now, we were proposing, when we started looking at it and how we're analyzing it, is to propose it spread around all three, not just, some of it would go to the new tower. You know, how we, if, ultimately, we work out something on the height. I mean, code does allow 200, and just for the record, when we went for the HPB, staff recommendation was for a 200-foot building. I mean, and ultimately, I understand the concerns I'm getting here at the beginning of the process, and we're gonna work with the neighbors, and we still have to not just get through this FAR, we have to get to HPB and work out with
Right.
that board. But over a third of it, the FAR was going into the Richmond and South Seas. So this 66,000 square feet is trying to make the project, the whole site more viable. So instead of having just open air exterior bars and restaurants at the Ocean Pavilion, a lot of that's gonna be covered. So it actually creates a benefit because it captures more of any impact it may have on the neighboring properties. So it also helps with the weather. So what we've done with the 0.5 FAR, the analysis at this point that the architects and the ownership are doing, is trying to figure out where it could go, where it would help the project, make it a viable project. And he wants to get started. I mean, when I explained to him the FAR process, he's like, what do you mean, I can't get this approved in a month? I go, anything, you know, unfortunately, that's the process we have. So the best this project could look
I
at.
feel like you should know where the FAR goes before, I mean, I'm just trying to.
I have a question for Debbie. Because I think the resistance from the public and from the neighbors and from some of the board members is going to be the height, right? And so, can a FAR be granted with us, dictating that where it can go or limiting where it can go?
So, well, there's a few things that, in terms of the height. So the existing allowable height, zoning-wise, is 200 feet for the site. The approved project is 175 feet. Any change in that, increasing the height up to the 200 feet, would be subject entirely to Historic Preservation Board review and approval. Now, because they're coming before you today with an LDR request, the planning board could certainly make a recommendation to the mayor and commission as part of, if you're favorable to some increased square footage up to that 0.5, you could make a recommendation to the mayor and commission that the condition be put in place that would not allow that additional FAR to exceed 175 feet.
I would be
Because I
amenable to
think,
that.
right, because I think there's, without micromanaging, I think there's an importance in the way of bringing these three buildings
Yep.
together for a
Yep.
project to be like a sustainable project, and that it has, the improvements for it to make it work, and having covered areas, just as they suggested. Whether the height or not, people will be on board, we'll see. But I definitely think that allowing them some FAR so that they can make some of the improvements is an important part of this project's success.
And also appreciate
So
the
I think what
Shelburne's owner.
you're saying is
Comments.
Hold on one second.
that we can recommend.
Well, we're not doing
spec-
anything today.
Yeah, okay, but
We're
when
continuing.
you were talking about
Yeah.
what I think you're saying is, before we move it to the commission, before it gets to any kind of approval, we absolutely need to know where they're planning to utilize that space, because you're saying it's for economic gain. If it is, normally developers come to us and say, we're going to add it here, we're going to put it there. They need to set that down, and it needs to be defined.
Well, I think we can say that we're
We're not going to
favor of.
micromanage it, but they need to come to some conclusion other than a
Correct, so
pro
in favor
forma
of the FAR,
spreadsheet.
but wanting to have more clarity on how the FAR is going
Yeah,
to be used.
because, and I understand what you're saying, pro forma, what, you're looking at the extra square feet, and somehow you're economically utilizing that space to generate more revenue. We just want to know where.
And Mr. Marks, I understand, and we will come, when we come back for the formal recommendation, we'll have a more solidified, I mean, we have our preliminary that you saw, and it's in the package, but we'll allocate where we plan
Yeah.
on putting the FAR, so it's a clearer.
Can we
And just one last thing. The concern on the HPB, if you look at this building, of all the buildings on that part of Collins, this is the furthest to the east. This really gets close to the beach. The concern was it would be overwhelming for people walking on the boardwalk or the hard pack there. So that was the concern over the height and kind of stepping back the top few floors. So just moving forward, that's the concern. That was the concern of the HPV. It's still my concern.
And I understand, and we'll evaluate everyone's concerns, including the neighbors. We'll evaluate everything that's been approved to the HPP, because you have both the Shore Club and the Ritz-Carlton have 200-foot towers about the same distance that we do. They follow the same code amendment that we're required to do. It's set back actually greater at over 100 feet. But anyway, we understand, we hear the board, they want to have a clear understanding where we intend to have the FAR.
Because I think it's important that we don't slow you guys down and that, that we distinguish between the two things that we're supporting and the ones that we're hesitant about. So I don't want us to say no on the FAR when it's, and it's not just, it's just one portion that we're hesitant about. So I think it's important that we move it forward in our recommendation.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, we want you to succeed.
Thank you.
Obviously.
All right, someone will move it to July?
I will.
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Thanks again, and Mitch, thanks for your comments, and please stay involved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before I leave, Mr. Chair, a quick question. As my client invited anyone on the planning board, I'll send out emails. We do have a sales center with a model that shows what was previously approved, so you get a really perspective of how the project was envisioned. If anyone's interested, before the July meeting, you're more than welcome to set up a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keith, are you able to sit for the?
No, do I need to, leave the?
Well, no, then we're going to wait, because we need to wait for you to show. We won't have a quorum. So you have to recuse yourself, I understand, on the,
That's the recommendation of council.
okay.
So
All right, then we're going to have to pass on that. We're going to,
Or we have to move it for the,
yeah,
we have to delay it?
let me ask if, let me see when Yashil's going to be here.
We need you for an item because Chief has
Hold on a second. I want to say something.
If he comes, yes.
What?
All right, we're going to move forward.
That was due to Mr. Matthew. That was the OIG. Otherwise, I wouldn't.
Are you all here for the school? Yeah, so I have to, because he has to recuse himself, Yashil is supposed to be coming in. He had an emergency at one of his buildings, so I'm hoping he comes in, but I can't have it until we have 5 people here.
And
So-
Mr. Chairman, Yahiel advised me he should be here around 10:20.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I just wrote him. Okay, he just wrote me. Yep, 15 minutes, so we'll be good in about 15 minutes. All right, so we'll move on to item 9, Planning Board File 260819, modify the composition of the planning board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The code currently has specific membership categories for appointment to the planning board. The proposed ordinance, in addition to the existing criteria, adds a new requirement that at least one board member reside in each of the city's 3 major geographic areas: South Beach, Mid Beach, and North Beach. This is intended to ensure representation of unique perspectives and issues of each neighborhood. The ordinance also allows the city commission to waive the geographic requirement by a 5/7 vote when considering an exceptionally qualified applicant, consistent with the existing residency waiver. And staff recommends that the board transmit the ordinance to the commission with a favorable recommendation.
Oh, here it is. I was wondering which street. So South Beach is south of 23rd, Mid Beach, okay.
Do we have any background on where this is motivated from?
I don't. Commissioner Alex Fernandez is the sponsor, and I don't I don't know if it was a particular board that wasn't well represented of the different areas or not. I don't know.
I think right now we satisfy that requirement,
I'll
I'm
gi-
pretty
yeah.
sure.
I'll give my 2
we meet
cents.
that,
Right? Yeah, I think, part of it is, you're kind of restricting,
Hold on, before you get in, is anybody here to speak on this? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, go.
All right, so you're kind of restricting to who you can reach out, and I think it's important, if you want someone from North Beach to be on the board, then you should be making sure someone from North Beach in your neighborhood is applying. So I just think we're putting some limitations here, that we're a city that doesn't have districts that are like represented, like commissions don't represent specific districts, where we work as a whole, so I don't know why we're piecing it all of a sudden for the boards. And so unless there's a real justification, I don't understand why we're doing this. That's my 2 cents.
I mean, probably a good idea, just, I understand what you're saying. I mean, yeah, I don't hear I don't see the justification or why if it wasn't, if we didn't have that representation, it would be a detriment. But,
To mandate it.
looking at the other way, yeah, I mean, you'd want to, something could come up in North Beach, and if there's no representation here, it seems better. I mean, to have somebody on the board that maybe is more familiar with a certain area of the city.
But they can
So
come out and speak.
I mean, we meet
Well,
that
the question
requirement
is, do you
now.
mandate
so-
it, or do you leave it to the
I think
commission
they
who
can
makes
come out and
appointments
speak.
to do their
I mean-
best to do that? And if they
Yeah.
can't find
Yeah,
someone,
they can-
the only problem, I agree with Melissa, could handcuff them. Obviously, if that's what they want, they can make that happen just by their selection and appointments, right?
I agree.
That I agree with Brian.
Yep.
If they really want it, they can
Right,
they can
right,
just.
for them.
And that way, they're
somebody from
not
North-
handcuffed in trying to find somebody.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
All right.
the qualifications to even be on the planning board are very stringent. I mean, it's pretty, it's hard to get people to
Yeah, it's a
sacrifice their
well-intentioned,
time.
no, it's a well-intentioned ordinance. I just don't know that you have to mandate it versus let
Correct.
the commission try to effectuate it. And that way, if they can't, then they're not stuck. So, all right, well, unless people have other comments, someone can move it
No,
unfavorably.
I just,
Recommend no.
I think it's silly.
You want to move it unfavorably?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Can I
with
get
it.
can I
I'll
get a
second
second?
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
They pass whatever they want anyway.
Next is Planning Board File 260841, updates to temporary fencing requirements for vacant lots and construction signs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So currently, the city has regulations that are similar but different for a construction fence, meaning you have a building permit, or a vacant lot fence, meaning the property is either, vacant or about to be vacant. So if you, for example, if you are submitting for a total demolition permit, that equals the property will soon become vacant. As part of that process, we require a vacant property fence, which is a higher design standard in terms of the quality of the fence. For example, construction fences may be chain link with the graphics coding them. A vacant property fence is required to be an aluminum picket fence. So what this current ordinance does, it allows for a bit more flexibility in the types of scenarios where someone has a demolition permit, but doesn't have a building permit to rebuild yet, because they may be in that process. So this would allow that person, that when the property becomes vacant, to introduce a construction fence and give them about a 1-year grace period, for lack of a better term, to get that construction permit, to maintain their construction fence, instead of having to invest in an aluminum picket fence in that intermediate time between the time the property becomes vacant and the time they obtain their building permit.
I thought that the the chain link fence was only allowed in between properties, not on beachfront or.
For a construction fence, we allow the chain link, but we do require the graphics. And so that's the second part of this ordinance, which would actually make the graphics a little bit more flexible in terms of introducing a rendering of the property. I think we've all seen those. Currently, a rendering of a project that's proposed for a particular site, we would consider more of a commercial graphic and part of the signage, because it's really advertising, right, what's going to be there. This modification would allow that rendering to not be taking away from the signage allowance, this would be in addition to the signage, and it would be allowed at 50% of the graphic area. So basically, it's just providing a little bit more flexibility. And while, you know, the renderings of projects do have a slight commercial connotation, it is actually something that people really like to see, right? Because everyone's always interested in what's coming here and what is the project going to look like. So staff is very supportive of this, which I think does just provide more flexibility.
Can we, so North Beach obviously is in a tremendous construction zone for all intents and purposes. Can we, I don't think anybody really likes the green screen that tears and allows you to see the property behind it. What can we do there? Since this is.
Yeah, and we can take a look at that, because the requirement for a construction fence does require some type of artistic graphics. So if there's a particular property that is not in compliance with that, we can certainly take a look at that.
Didn't we have this, I think this issue came up in the property, in the Palm View neighborhood. They came in front of us.
Yes.
I think they kept getting a violation because they didn't have a fence, or it wasn't an aluminum picket fence. So, yeah, it makes sense. If somebody's going to do a project, why spend a lot of money on an aluminum picket fence when it's probably going to be taken out later, and maybe a nicer fence, you know, more permanent wall or whatever it's going to be, will be installed when the house or whatever it is gets built. So, yeah, this makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So want to move it?
I'll move it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay. All right, last on the comprehensive plan code amendments, planning board file 260842, veterinary clinics and performance standard districts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are very few areas within the South of Fifth neighborhood where veterinary clinics are currently permitted. The proposed ordinance provides for a limited expansion of allowable Class II medical uses specific to veterinary clinics within the RMPS1 and CPS1 zoning districts. This is roughly the area between South Point Drive and 2nd Street from Alton Road to Collins Avenue. Since no veterinary clinics currently exist in the South of Fifth neighborhood, this amendment would create new opportunities to introduce an essential neighborhood service in this area of the city, and staff recommends that the board transmit the ordinance to the commission with a favorable recommendation.
Well,
I'll move it.
I love my dogs, and I would love to have a.
Wait, hold on. Anyone
closer.
here and speak on this? No. Anyone on Zoom? Okay.
I think it's a marvelous idea.
All right, move it.
I'll move it.
It's supported by my puppies.
All right, so we have a motion, right?
Yes,
Elizabeth, and a
motion.
second, Keith.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Move favorably.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Okay, that passes. You should be here any minute, and your item's up, and then we're finished. So we'll take a 5-minute break. You said 10:15, it's 10:14. His building somewhere.
Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4,
You're gonna be here for
3,
5 minutes. Good,
2,
easy item.
1.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, and welcome my esteemed colleague, Ishil Cement.
Great to see you.
We
Thank
know.
you.
Thank
So,
you.
1 second, Keith. So we're
Yes.
moving on to our last item, which is planning board file. Where are we? Let's see, planning board file 260821, which is 251 Washington Avenue, Base Camp 305 Private School. Before we proceed, I'll turn it over to Keith.
Yes, I just would need to, on advice of council, I will recuse from this. And
Have a
see
good
you
day.
all
We'll
in
see you in
July,
July.
and Elvis
Okay.
has left the building.
All right. Thank you. Deborah?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an existing school located at 251 Washington Avenue. It's a small private school. This property received a conditional use permit for the educational institution in 2019. In 2019, they had a temporary structure because it was really important to enroll students and get the school open. In 2022, the CUP was modified for the permanent structure, which you see is currently under construction now. It is almost, I believe it's almost complete. Since that time, the owner has acquired the property to the south, which was originally a hostel. Actually, historically it was too, which is kind of fascinating. So since that time, that business, obviously with the new owner, has been vacated, and an application has been submitted and approved to the Historic Preservation Board to reconfigure that particular property to the south, including the demolition of the existing structure and some partial reconstruction. So that has been approved. Because the current owner would like to incorporate this, which will be primarily open space lot, with the exception of a small portion of the reconstructed building toward the front of the property, they are expanding the area of their existing conditional use permit. That does trigger a need to modify the existing conditional use permit to include this particular property. The property is proposed to be used as a recreation open area for students, which is, very challenging with these small urban schools. So staff is very supportive of that use as an amenity for these students. We are recommending that the planning board approve the modification with one additional condition that we are recommending. Specific to the hours of operation for this open recreation space, we are just asking for it to be consistent with the recreation open space at an elevated level to the north of the existing approved project, so that we don't have, large events or a lot of noise toward the adjacent residential buildings after 5 p.m.
Okay. Thank you. Counselor?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members, and staff, and special congratulations to Ms. Tackett on the new role, truly well-deserved.
I missed the first part,
You missed
sorry.
the whole.
There was a loud round of applause. Rob Alvarez with the law firm Burkow, Riddell, Fernandez, Larkin, and Tappan. Offices at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard. I'm joined by architect Ryan Alderman and my esteemed colleague Paul Savage behind me. We are here on behalf of Base Camp 305, the applicant. And now that the board has taken care of puppies, we're here to talk about a playground. So happy to conclude the agenda this way. We are here requesting a modification to the Base Camp 305 CUP to incorporate the adjacent 235 Washington Avenue property into the school campus to allow the recreational field. And please, if, the presentation. As I'm sure you folks are aware, the properties are located between 2nd and 3rd Street on Washington Avenue with the Collins Court alley to the rear. The 251 property, as Debbie mentioned, is currently under construction. We visited the site last week, actually, and construction activity should be wrapping up this year, and the school Activities will start in 2027. The 235 property, as staff mentioned, has a two-story existing building built in the 30s that has been approved for demolition by the Historic Preservation Board. To the south, there is a satellite office of the Miami Beach PD Internal Affairs Division, as well as the Washington Dog Park to the south of that. And then across the street, across Second Street, is another Base Camp 305 property, an elementary school. Here are beautiful renderings of the Base Camp 305 school that's going to be at the 251 property that's under construction. These renderings may appear familiar to several of you all because you were on the board when it was approved in 2022. In 2022 here you could see the modified CUP. The board approved a modified CUP for the permanent educational facility on the site. The Base Camp 305 project was also approved by the HPB. So Base Camp 305, the school is an extremely unique educational provider. It's meant to provide personalized learning environments for students. It has a strong STEAM focus and seeks to have innovative project-based learning. The leadership at Base Camp 305 really wants it to be a place where students love to learn and hopefully look forward to coming to school every single day.
How many kids are in the school?
It's approved for 40, and
40?
we're not seeking an increase to that.
And what grades is it?
It's going to be from ages 8 through 13, so upper elementary and middle.
So through 8th grade?
Yeah, through 8th grade, correct. So one
That's
thing.
a great student-teacher ratio.
Yes.
Tuition must be pricey.
Well, whatever price they pay, it's going to be worth it because in looking at the facilities and the curriculum, it's truly extraordinary.
It's beautiful, I love it.
Yeah, and our Base Camp, part of its genesis is that there are few schools, as we know here on Miami Beach. Folks have traditionally had to go to the mainland for schools, and that's part of the void that Base Camp is trying to fill. So one thing that Base Camp 305 was missing was open air recreational space. There's academic consensus about the importance of physical education and, outdoor time. I'm sure I don't need to convince you all of that. It's been shown to, improve emotional regulation and overall student well-being. So, we're thrilled about the potential of adding this playground area. Here is the demolition site plan. You could see at the 251 property, the approved Base Camp 305 school. At the 235 property, you see the existing building that has been approved for demolition. It was approved on May 12th by the Historic Preservation Board, and its demolition will allow for the creation of this recreational open space and having, an integrated setup. Here is the recreational plan that's in your packets. There is, there are 2 striped mini soccer fields, very applicable now that we have the World Cup coming up. Maybe we have a future Christian Pulisic or Gio Reyna training on those fields. We also have seating, we have fencing and landscaping as well. Overall the goal is for kids to be able to have a place to, have fun, enjoy, their PE class, time with their friends. And as mentioned earlier, there's only 40 students, so it's not like one of these large high schools where there are hundreds of students, out on the field. And, we're thrilled to be able to provide this amenity to the students in, in an urban area. You don't usually have the ability to provide open space to new educational facilities like this. The Base Camp 305 looked at all the details. We have a state-of-the-art artificial turf that we're proposing. It is extremely permeable, as Paul and I have researched, extremely permeable with high levels of drainage, as well as it's meant to facilitate continuous use. The colors, they really focus on this multi-tone blend to make it look natural. You could see even some of the brown fibers. It's meant to look natural, not like what you'll see in some of these old sports arenas that you could, really tell that it's artificial turf. This is meant to be beautiful and sustain use by the students of the school. So as staff eloquently explained, the HPB approved demolition of the existing building. As part of that approval, the applicant is to replicate the existing primary facade on the western part of the site. You could see here on this drawing, the replicated facade is to the left. And here, a view from the south, you can see the replicated facade. It extends about 7.5 feet to the east, and then you have the fence, the proposed aluminum fence, and the school to the north. Here we also see the facade reconstruction, the western elevation. Not only will it serve to remember the existing building on the site and maintain the historic urban fabric along Washington Avenue, but we think it'll be excellent to also provide a sense of privacy for the students that are playing on the field. And we're also going to be working with HPB staff on the openings at the bottom and make sure they have proper closing mechanisms. So we look forward to working with HPB staff on that. In terms of operations, there's no requested increase in student enrollment. As I mentioned, it's going to be at 40 students. We agree with staff's condition. The hours of operation for the school campus will close at 5 p.m. consistently. Emphasis on local student access via walking and biking for the project, and the primary connection between the 251 and 235 parcels is provided by a gate on the northeast corner of the shared property line. We are pleased to have staff's favorable support for the project, and as I mentioned, we approve of staff's conditions.
Regarding that condition, Deborah, you said with one additional, but are we talking about item 6? Like when you say additional, because that's in there.
Yeah, that is the staff recommended condition, correct?
Okay, I thought you said with one addition to what's in here. Okay.
No.
Okay, so it's the 8:30 to 5, it's item 6.
Yes, I
Okay.
must have misspoke.
Got it, go ahead.
No problem. We also have community support. The South of Fifth Neighborhood Association notably supported the HPB application for demolition of the existing structure as well as design of the playground. Also, throughout the course of our hearings, we've had dozens of Miami Beach residents call in support of this project, and we're truly excited to be able to provide this amenity to the students of the school and have something, a beautiful product for the residents of Miami Beach. So with that, we respectfully request approval of this application. We want to note that this is a very narrow application. We're modifying an existing CUP to incorporate this parcel into the school campus. There's going to be no operational changes. And as I mentioned, we support all of staff's conditions. And with that, I close. I welcome any questions and respectfully request any time for rebuttal if necessary.
Yeah. First of all, any disclosures that need to be made on this?
Yeah, I just had an email exchange with Rob.
Okay, anybody else?
Site tour.
What's that?
I did a site tour.
Oh, you did a tour, okay. Anybody else? All right. Anybody here to speak on this item in chambers? Anybody on Zoom? No, okay, we'll close the public hearing. Any questions?
I wish everything that we heard was this pleasant. I'm all for it.
So thank you.
All right, so.
Motion to approve.
Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Melissa, all in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Opposed?
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Nice
Appreciate it.
job. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
I think we're beating records here.